Good morning, everybody. Welcome into a Sunday morning edition of MLB Chop Talk. I'm your buddy Choppadong. Obviously brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things DFS related. We dominated NASCAR last night, getting ready to do it again today. We've got PGA Showdown stuff. We've got NBA season wrapping up, NHL season wrapping up. We'll take a couple of rounds through the playoffs, but those seasons will wind down. Baseball's just kicking in. So let's focus a little bit on baseball, because if you're going to want to stick with us, this is the sport you're going to be wanting to play over the next few months. And let me show you quickly how this is working, because the numbers are populating into the research station, and we can very, very, very quickly assess a slate. I will tell you this. Baseball is a very, very volatile sport, a very, very fluky sport. When you get a big game like this, big slate of 11 games, man, who knows? It's very, very hard to get the right offenses or to get the right one-off plays or whatever else. You just kind of spreading out as best you can, taking advantage of the situation the best you can, and hoping that you get a little bit of luck along the way, because otherwise there's too many options, honestly. Like, you don't need to worry about ownership. You don't need to worry too much about leverage plays and GPPs and all that kind of stuff, because everybody's going to be spread out, because everybody has tons of reasonable options. But here's what we're going to do. I want you to grab pen and paper. I want you to write this stuff down, because I will show you how to target the better pitchers. You go to the starting pitchers matchup tab. You scroll all the way over to K-score in the chop shop. You sort that by descending. You bring all the top strikeout pitchers. What is K-score? K-score is very, very easily K percentage of the pitcher, and added to it the opposition's K-score, or K percentage, as a team to the handedness of the pitcher. So you're going to get better strikeout teams, and Boston typically is not a strikeout team. Kansas City typically not a strikeout team. San Diego Padres typically a strikeout team. So you're going to want high strikeout pitchers facing San Diego. But if you get a high strikeout pitcher facing a Kansas City, sometimes it can still mean more than a low strikeout pitcher facing San Diego. And that's what the K-score allows you to do. It compares the two together to give you an overall matchup of strikeout potential, which puts you on the most upside plays in theory. And it works pretty well. It's not foolproof, but it works pretty well. The other thing we're going to do when we're looking at bad pitchers is look at Sierra. It's just a quick tell-all metric, a little bit more predictive of ERA. And we're going to flip the DFSA grade on its head and watch this bad category. But right now we're sorted by K-score. So I want to know who the Vegas favorites are. And I want to look at price and K-score. I'm looking at Max Scherzer facing the Mets. Probably an okay place to start. Can we find something cheaper that is also at Brad Peacock, 8,300, facing the Oakland Athletics? I'm assuming Houston's the favorite there. What's the K-score difference? 520 down, or 570 down to 520. Yes, that's a big drop off, but anything over 500 is pretty good. So we want to key in on these top 3 or 4 guys, maybe the guys down here in the neighborhood, the next couple of guys. See if we can't find something. If Houston's a strong Vegas favorite to win this game, I would take the $3,000 savings over Max Scherzer. German facing Baltimore, probably a similar situation. The other thing I like to see is that German is priced up on DraftKings. That helps point me into a direction that DraftKings adjusted his price based on the matchup. FanDuel's a little slow behind the curve, and I like him on FanDuel. Chris Archer, okay, may not go deeper into the game, but he's got plenty of upside. There's no doubt about it. Cincinnati, in Pittsburgh's pitchers type park, facing Cincinnati, they're not a very threatening lineup. Last night was the first night they really scored a lot of runs that I noticed. Of course, I didn't have them, stacked up with Pittsburgh, but I'm, just watching for the situation today, and I would look at Chris Archer. I'd also look at Mike Clevinger. Maybe a Jose Berrios. Tons of upside with Berrios. Matt Strahm, again, in St. Louis, might end up striking out a ton of people, being that he's a left-handed pitcher that gives St. Louis problems. These are the guys I would typically stick to. I don't need to dip down into these to gamble. I can take somewhere in the low 8s is a place that I love to live on FanDuel. Now on DraftKings, I'm going to need something in the 8s. Peacock's not a terrible spot. And then I'm going to probably need something down here. Or take 2 low 9s or something. It's very, very hard to build a lineup with a Max Scherzer or a Jose Berrios when they're priced up like this. You're going to typically need something in the lower end of Tier 1 and then something in the upper end of Tier 2 for a balanced type of structure, or just a flat-out punt. Something down here in the pitching that maybe is favored to win that you just hope doesn't blow up, so that you've got some room to maneuver for your bats. That's more of a DK type of style. Now, let's go flip it on its head, since we've written down a few of those pitchers. Seriously, that's all you need to know for pitching. That's your list. Good games are going to come out of those pitchers, and you're going to be fine. Now, this list we might drop down to about the 30 mark on DFSA grade, so down to about Stroman and we might include Caleb Smith with a lot of the bad category going against him. So anywhere down into about Matt Strom, Marcus Stroman, and then Caleb Smith. Those are the bats we're going to want to attack, okay? So you're going to want to write these down. Yankees, Cubs, Minnesota Twins, Houston Astros, Seattle, Cleveland, may or maybe not take Kansas City or St. Louis into effect, but then you would come down here to Caleb Smith, you'd be looking at Atlanta bats. Just write those down. Those are your stacking candidates. If anything else pops off, fine. But these are the ones that are more likely to pop off because they're facing bad pitching. From there, we've got our pitchers, now we've got our stacks. We're going to dive into, let me write some of those down. I'm still going to go team by team and show you how I'm doing this, but Chicago, Minnesota, Houston, Seattle, Cleveland, and then who was the other one down here? Atlanta. We're going to look inside those offenses for the hot running bats. So I go to the Trends tab, and I scroll over here to L7 WOBA, I sort by descending. I may have to watch some of these guys with low plate appearances today. Today being a Sunday, a lot of times it's a day after a night game. That leads to a lot of veteran rest. It leads to a lot of stud rest. I heard last night JD Martinez was off last night and Mookie Betts was going to be off today, something like that. So they've got their scheduled days off. It gets a little funky in the lineups. You can see a lot of times 7, 8 hitters come up to the 1 or 2, and you want to jump on some of those for value when you need it because the price doesn't adjust quick enough. But those are the types of things that make Sunday baseball goofy, especially those noon starts. You've got to really watch those. It's a more random, more GPP-oriented slate night, week in and week out. I don't typically play a lot of Sundays. I'm just doing this in the beginning of the season to kind of help get people pointed in the right direction. But that's your biggest tip on a Sunday. Expect random. Expect goofy. That's, again, why you want to be playing in tournaments in baseball on Sundays. But we're going to want to watch these plate appearances because these plate appearances are going to tell us, some of these guys with 1 and 2 and 5, 4 plate appearances might get the start today. So they do count. We got to watch those lineups confirmed to make sure they're in or not in the starting lineup before we actually use them and build lineups around them. But we want to be paying attention. On a Tuesday, you don't need to pay much attention to these guys. They'll pop in at random sometimes, but on a Sunday, they are more likely to show up in the lineup. Okay, so now that we've sorted off by L7 WOBA, let's start with Atlanta. They were one of the teams we wanted to look at. So I would be focused on a Charlie Culberson if he gets the start. He might not get the start, but if he does, he's off to a decent start in his 2 plate appearances. I mean, there's a very, very small sample, no big deal. But in the last 7 days, WOBA, I trust this number very, very well. Tyler Flowers, if he gets the start for sure. Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman. Anything over 400, over 450 is really good. Over 500 is really, really good. Over 400 is playable. So down to Inciarte, Swanson, Freeman, Albies, Flowers, Culberson. I don't know that I would be including a Markakis, even though he had that monster game. Inciarte's at 372, so I don't know. If he leads off, maybe. Markakis, maybe. They're playable. They certainly would complete stacks, but they're not swinging super hot bats just yet. Look at Baltimore. Alberto on a small sample, if he starts. Otherwise, it's Ricard, VR, maybe some Mancini, close to the 400 mark, right? A little bit more of a contrarian stack. Chicago was one of the teams we wanted to look at. Wilson Contreras, Daniel Descalso, if he gets the start. Zagunas, if he gets the start. It's a good value play. Caratini, good value play. Got the start this weekend, last night or Friday night, one of the two. And down here, maybe Rizzo. Schwarber's dropping a little bit. Schwarber was over 400 before, so he's starting to cool off. We're going to have to watch this number. We look at the 14-day WOBA at 392 and 428 for Rizzo and Schwarber. Look, it's under. This is telling me they're kind of descending. I'm going to wait for this number to pop back above this number before I really dive in headlong on those guys. Because right now, Schwarber's a little bit overpriced, certainly on DK. Now, he might hit 2 home runs today. I don't know. But as of the general trend that I follow, he's descending in his hot streak. So his price is catching up to him faster, and he's more likely to be overpriced. Looking for any kind of Cincinnati love. Not really. See, nobody's over a 400. Suarez is a one-off. Otherwise, I'm not stacking that offense. If it goes off again, great. I'm not. If I play the numbers right, they're not going to be an offense that's going to factor into much. Carlos Santana, Hanley Ramirez. Other than that, not much. And Cleveland's an offense we would like. So you can include some of these other guys. Nakin has power. Leonis Martin leads off. You can include these guys in stacks, but you're going to want to build it around Santana and Ramirez. White Sox not typically a team we're focused on right now. Cordell's on a very, very short sample size, of course, but Yoan Moncada, Tim Anderson, Wellington Castillo if he gets the start, Yonder Alonso. These are guys that I'd be playing. These are a nice contrarian stack facing Wade LeBlanc. LeBlanc isn't exactly a fireballer. Detroit, not much there. So you can largely ignore the audience. Goodrum is a one-off. You can and earlier this week when they were in a good spot facing Seattle, and what Friday or whatever, we built around Goodrum. We said to put some stacks in there, and they scored some runs. This isn't a spot where they're maybe going to score some runs. It didn't show up on paper as one of the better spots to attack. Small sample size, but Marisnik at 477 is strong, especially in a wrap stack where you might come around, with a Springer, and that would be maybe where you would incorporate Springer's 363, and then Correa, Bregman, whatever. These are the guys I'd be focused on. I wouldn't be focused on a Gurriel or an Altuve yet. When their numbers start popping, you can start focusing on them. Kansas City was a team we said maybe is an outside shot at a stack. So I'd be looking at Alex Gordon. He's running hot right now. Mondesi's been okay. O'Hearn for some power and some value. Soler has a little bit. These are guys that I might run in there, but I'm not as focused on these guys as I am these, as you have already noticed. Miami, probably largely ignore them. Nobody's running all that great. Martin Prado in 18, sitting 752. I'd definitely be including him as a cheap one-off in my player pool. If I was mixing it up in optimizers, if I was only building one lineup, I might consider him. Christian Yelich popping back up in the 488. Travis Shaw, Hernan Perez, Lorenzo Cain. This is a powerful offense. You can use a lot of these guys. Look at Orlando Arcia. You need to watch him. He's a great value play all the time. All the time. And he will have his hot streaks. And right now he's on one. Does it mean he's hitting for power? No. But he's bringing value to your lineup and allowing you to go get bigger bats. Astudillo, if you can, 596, Polanco, Nelson Cruz, maybe a Tyler Austin if he gets the start. Mets, not a team we're necessarily focused on, but they've got some playables. Look at this, 400s, bunch of 400s. Anyone in this list of 5, definitely playable. Yankees, somebody we were focused on. Well, they're going against Max Scherzer. I'd look at BVP versus Max Scherzer. See if anybody hits him well. So any one of those guys, those 5 or 6 that were running hot, if they hit him well, take a shot on them. LeMahieu, Torres, Sanchez. That's about it for the Yankees right now until these other guys start picking it up. Look at how Luke Voigt's cooled off. Aaron Judge hit a couple of bombs yesterday. His numbers will adjust in a day or two, and that'll come up. And then we'll start getting back on the train. Otherwise, he's a very, very deep GPP flyer at his price. Laureano, Chapman. That's about it. And Chris Davis is always a two-dong kind of guy. But at a 280, well, he's not seeing the ball very well. He was running at 360. He's already down to a 280. Very, very overpriced right now. You could probably get off of him for a little while. Philadelphia, Harper's still running hot. Look how he's ascending. The 591's turned into a 672. I'd play Harper over Davis. And then fill him out with some of these, a couple of these other guys if you wanted to run Philly stacks. Pittsburgh stacks, probably not, but Moran, if he's not injured. Melky Cabrera, not a bad, decent value play most of the time. 2,800 here, 3,800 here. Adam Frazier's not terrible. I'd save him for a little bit better matchups. San Diego going up against Cardinal pitching. Adam Wainwright. Oh, stack San Diego today. That's your GPP tip. Stack San Diego today. Adam Wainwright ain't right. He's old. He's washed up. I love the guy, but he's walking a lot of batters. This is a big day. And the Cardinal bullpen has been incredibly vulnerable if they keep running Andrew Miller out there. Andrew Miller's not right either. This is a spot for San Diego to get crazy. And on a slate like this, I guarantee you they'll be one of the lower-owned stacks. Renfroe, especially if he starts, has a ton of power. Cordero is a value play. Machado, Hosmer. I don't know about Margot. Maybe Garcia. Garcia's a former Cardinal. There's no bad blood there, but if he knows Adam Wainwright, so if he pops in the lineup, he's a cheap value play up top. Mejia, if he starts. Hedges has power if Mejia doesn't start. Will Myers is running a little cold. I don't like seeing that. Tatis has power. But up and down this lineup, you could just run any of these stacks that you wanted to. Seattle's cooled way off. A lot of these numbers are on the decline, but there are a few you can still play. Vogelbach, Murphy, Jay Bruce types. San Diego, Wieters, Wong, DeYoung. Wieters only sitting on 1 at bat. I don't know when Yachty's going to get his next day off. Paul Goldschmidt's cold right now, so there's not a lot to love in the St. Louis offense. You can largely skip them. Maybe put Strom in a good play spot, a little bit better, more of a bump to him, being that the Cardinals' offense is running cold. Urena, Galvis, Grichuk. That's about it for Toronto. And then Washington's running okay with Rendon up top there. Probably a decent play. I don't know if I'd prefer him over Harper, but look at the drop in salary. That's telling you that Wheeler's a bad matchup for Anthony Rendon. And FanDuel hadn't caught up on it yet, making him a DK play primarily if you want to play him, or if FanDuel more of a tournament play. Robles is strong if you want to wrap him with an Eaton or somebody like that. Soto, decent play as well. So that's just roughly where I'd be looking today in this 11-game slate. I would take lots of different shots on lots of different stack combos. I'd focus on the pitching, hopefully get the pitching right, hopefully hit something with a stack. I would not worry too much about ownership, although you've seen some plays that will go definitely under the radar. Martin Prado types, San Diego stack types are definitely going to go under the radar. So if you really wanted to hang your balls out there, you'd run 50%, 60% of your San Diego stacks, bank on that, and then spin a bunch of secondary stacks around it. That's where you'd mix in your Yankees, Cubs, your Houston Astros, Seattle. Hope that one of those guys does well while the San Diego offense does well. And then that would put a core of lineups across the money line for you fairly easily and hopefully grind up some money. If this is the type of advice you like, hit the like and the subscribe button. Use the notification bell so you get these when the videos drop, because they do drop sometimes on the weekends at random days. But most importantly, consider becoming a member inside DFSArmy.com. Use that coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, for a 20% off discount. Get in here today before the games kick off. Try out our tools. Try out the optimizer. Try out the research station and get the numbers on your own, because I am only showing you the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more inside. Next week we'll probably focus on a different number. I will always focus on trending WOBA, but next week we'll probably focus a little bit more on starting lineups page, show you X WOBA and things like that, and talk about those. So if you like that, come on back. And if you really, really like it, come on inside, become a member. We're talking all of the sports. We're coaching everybody up every single day. You see the tweets, you see the winning on the leaderboard, you see the track record that we have. You can't find a better blend of content, tools, and coaching anywhere in all of DFS. DFSArmy.com. I'm your buddy Chapadong, and I will see you guys probably next week.